There we go. Our chance to talk about the culture of this church and kind of share a little bit. Jamie, it's really started from this summer. Jamie, while I was speaking at camp, she sat through a church planter, the extraordinaire, the guy that we've called a few times on different things. And one of the things that he said, it's important as a church to explain who you are from time to time, to make sure you continue to keep that in the front of all of our heads, that one, we're Christ's followers, but also as a church, what are some of the core things that we're looking to do? So we talked last week as our first Sunday in here, and again, I appreciate you working through all the bugs as we figure it out. We do have heat in the building, don't worry. This morning we decided not to turn it on because we were warned that the first time you turn it on, it puts off a bad smell, and we didn't want to do that, so I apologize, but I promise you we will have heat going, then you won't have to worry about that in the future. I'll deal with the bad smell by myself during the week. But no, seriously, just thank you for showing up, being part of this, and as we talk through this, a lot of who One Church is has been built off of, I've shared this before, churches that I've been in, that I've worked at, been at, we've tried to take in the good parts of each of those and to really celebrate those things. And one of the things I remember, I've shared this story before, so bear with me if you've heard me say it, but when I was about 10, 12 years old, somewhere in that age bracket, my good friend Jeff and I decided that it would be a good idea to, you guys remember the hacky sacks, not the soft ones that were like cushy, but like the hard hacky sacks that were everywhere. We decided, we had that, and I had went to a Tigers game, so I had the small baseball bat, and we decided that we were going to play baseball in the church basement. We thought it was a great idea. Church basement, you can't do anything, it's all block, right? Besides these windows. And we really needed a strike zone to know if it was a strike or not. And in our infinite wisdom at 10-12, let's use the window area as the strike zone. I mean, what could possibly ever go wrong with that idea? And those that have played softball and have seen my athletic ability, you would know that, yeah, I didn't make the hit, and Jeff pitched it, and it went right through the window of the church. And I can still, however many years later, I can still hear that sound of the glass breaking, the single pane glass breaking, and the hacky sack going through the window. And I was just like instant blood pressure shot up, right? You're scared to death. All of this stuff. And I've shared this stuff. There's a lady in the church named Irma Murray who was kind of that old church lady that watched over. I'm laughing because my sister's here this Sunday up from Indiana, and she knows Irma as well as me. And if you knew Irma Murray from Beaverton, you would know they called her Sergeant because she was a very intense lady that protected the church. And we broke the window, and I remember them saying, well, to Jeff and I, like, hey, you're going to have to tell your parents what you did. And I remember at that age going, I have no trouble telling my parents what I did. I don't want to tell Irma Murray what I did. Because if I have to tell her that I broke a window in the church, it is not going to go well. So I tried to negotiate, is there a way that if I tell, I'll stand in front of the church and tell everybody, just don't make me tell her, right? The fear of that. So in the middle of that church, I thought it was beautiful, all these years later. Instead of them getting mad, instead of Irma telling me, giving me this big lecture, what she did instead was she said, I'll tell you what, there's 2 older guys in the church that will repair the window, but you need to be there with them and help them. And I'm not condoning breaking windows, but honestly, it was great to sit with Bernie Allen and Ward Russell and to put this window back together and learn how it all worked and glaze it and do all that stuff. It really wasn't that much of a punishment. It was a kind of enjoyable thing that I got to do, but I learned my lesson. And the church didn't condemn and say, all this stuff. Instead, they just surrounded me in love. And that's where this church, we want to surround the youth and the kids in love. We want to be a place that I get it's sometimes a little annoying when they get loud. And there's situations that have happened where I lose my cool. I love kids, but I lose my cool, and I'm like, and one of the work days, the green marker fight that a couple of kids got into, I wish, please stop fighting with green markers, right? You get into this. But instead, it's this is the church that we're going to be. We're going to be a church that cares about kids, that are there for kids. We're going to be a church that cares about youth, that are going to be stupid crazy about it. the dreams of that other side of having that done where that can be a space for the kids and the youth to use, right? Like, that's my passion. We're going to be a church that celebrates that. That doesn't mean that the rest of us don't grow in our faith. Yes, we continue to grow in our faith, but we're going to be a church that does that. So this Sunday, we're going to celebrate those things. As last Wednesday, we had our first kids' night, and it went amazing. Tonight is our first youth group. I hope the shepherds are ready for it. It's going to be amazing. But I want to introduce you because we have 3 people that are heading up those areas because we're a church that's growing. We're a church that's expanding. And it can't all just be Jamie and I. Believe it or not, we have a life outside of, like, we want to actually hang out with each other, not talk about church all the time. So we've talked to some people, we've prayed about it, and this Sunday we're going to celebrate that. So the first person I'm going to have Gabe come up. Gabe is going to be, we kind of have all these areas referred to them as the experience. I've told them you're the experience director. So he's running with high schoolers, the experience of high schoolers. And Gabe, if you want to grab the green one, right? Gabe has preached here before. He went to Bethel University, and he is going to be overseeing the high schoolers in kind of that youth ministry of working with high schoolers. So Gabe, I ask you to share a little bit of who you are, the pastor that you want to be someday. Keep it short. We don't need a 45-minute sermon.
I know.
I'm just pre-warning.
I know. We go to Bible colleges, and yeah, if you can get more than pastors in a room, and yeah. But like John said, my name is Gabe. I've been here before. Adam jokes that I'm always the guy that sits in the back. So I went to Bethel University in Mishawaka, Indiana, studied youth ministry. My passion with youth ministry comes from the fact that many of you have met Brian Reinhardt through this whole church planning process. He was my youth pastor, and I've known him since I was 8 years old, and just the fact that he poured into me coming from a fatherless household and just having that male role model in my life, that mentoring and discipleship aspect really put me on a path that I didn't think was possible just coming from the background I come from. So that's where my passion is, with mentoring and discipleship and just getting to know the students and diving deeper into the Bible, and just them teaching me and me teaching them is just a wonderful experience.
So your heart and something, Gabe actually started his internship in college working with me at Midland First, and I've got to know your heart, and again, you've talked about Brian was a huge part of that, and I've watched you continue to grow in that faith. So what is it that makes you go, man, I want to work with high schoolers more than anything?
Well, currently I work with middle schoolers in my current job, which is fun. But high schoolers, I just love going deeper into the Bible. This past year with the high school Bible study, just the questions and the struggling with them and working through some of these issues and presenting some answers to their questions, or just being, I don't know, let's work with that together. But I love those intellectual conversations that high school can provide sometimes, and I just love that. I enjoy, let's go deeper, let's see what happens with this. So that's where high school, and we like to joke around and stuff too. So
you like to joke, good. So high schoolers or parents, if you have a high schooler, feel free afterwards to get to know Gabe, talk to him a little bit. That way you can know a little bit of who's kind of in your corner as high schoolers. He's the one that can come to me and say, hey, we need to work on this. The high schoolers are asking for this, or events. And we have one plan tonight, obviously, and we have event plans once a month is our plan going through the school year. So thank you, Gabe, so much for coming up and sharing that. I'll take this from you. And next up, we have you can give him a round of applause if you want. Next up, we have, who has jumped on board with our middle schoolers, is Owen, Big O. Come on up. If you don't know already, I really went for our youth directors to be bigger than me, so they could make me feel smaller but better. No, I'm just. But Owen definitely has a passion to work with middle schoolers, and we've talked a little bit about this. And this is something, as you graduated, you had actually shared a little bit with me. But first, tell them a little bit about who you are, and just kind of share your heart, what's on your heart. So.
My name's Owen. I graduated from Meridian High School in 2023. I'm from Sanford, born and raised, and I think it's really important to work with middle schoolers because that seems to be like a point in your life where it's a teeter-totter. If something goes wrong, it's a little bit harder to change it down the road, but if you can get it right while you're younger, it's a lot easier. So I just want to be that person that every middle school boy looks up to be a role model, how to treat people with respect, and how to believe in faith.
So obviously you were baptized not obviously, you were baptized this year. You've had some huge growth in your time and since One Church has started. For you, what is the importance of making sure we have a spot for these middle schoolers? And I know you talked about like being at games, you and I kind of shared like being at watching them cheerlead, football, whatever, like being at those things so there's somebody they're a safe person that they can come to. But what is it that grows like just not that mentor, but actually like a faith believer, a follower of Christ? What can you share a little bit of that, like growing that faith, or what is it that your hope is? I guess it's hard because I'm leading you to the answer that we've already talked about, but just more of not just being that person for them, but growing in their faith, growing in different areas of their life, right? So what was that for you? You said when we kind of talked over the months and even recently that there was people in your life, right? And you want to be that person. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that part? Because you don't have to go in the situation, but you've had a lot of stuff in your family growing up. So is there anything you want to share with that, or putting you kind of on the spot on that?
When I was younger, I didn't really have a father figure in my life when I was in my elementary years. So I looked up to a lot of teachers that I had throughout the years. Matthew Shepard, Bob Blades, and Kyle Henderson were all big father role models to me. And I kind of looked up to them of how to treat people with respect. And I know some of which obviously have faith, and I just like to learn from them, and I don't know, it's kind of, be that for a younger kid.
Should we switch to the other mic? Is this one, or do you want to keep? Okay. I want you. No, you're all good. So this is Owen. So if parents again of middle schoolers, Owen is in middle schoolers. Owen is your guy. He's going to try his best to get to know all of you guys, and he'll be there tonight with some games and some stuff at the Shepherd's house. So get a chance to introduce that. So let's give Owen a round of applause. So. And the third and final, if we can get her away from all of the preschool kids, she's good. The third and final is Andrea, which we talked about a few weeks ago. So Andrea, I will share a little bit, and then I'll let Andrea share a little bit. So we were looking for somebody because One Church has a wonderful, I don't want to say problem, a wonderful thing of we have lots of kids, right? And that was something that we really wanted, especially coming into this. And we had talked and kind of worked through, and there's a couple other people that had thought and tried, and it just wasn't working out in their season of life right now. And of all things, a random conversation, if you haven't put it together, because obviously Andrea is my cousin's daughter, so it was not nepotism, there was none of that. Like, it was one of those things that it was a random conversation, and she is going into education, elementary education, and it was a conversation. She's like, well, I would kind of enjoy doing something like that. And I'm like, well, you're going to CMU. There's a little bit of a drive, and it worked out all the details. And I stepped away and had a couple of the board members here at the church kind of take over and said, if you think Andrea is a good fit, because I don't want it to look like I'm just going, hey, hire my cousin, have her come and help and hang out with kids. But I guess I will hand the microphone to you. Come a little closer here if you don't mind. And I know you love being in front of adults. Like, this is your dream moment. So, but just share a little bit of who you are, your heart for kids, whatever God's laying on your heart for that. So.
Okay, hi everyone. I've not used your microphone in a very long time. Like John said, my name is Andrea Heisel. I go to Central Michigan University. I'm a junior there and an elementary education major. I just want to share a little bit about myself. I am from St. Joseph, Michigan, which is in the southwest part, right by the lake over here. I have two older sisters, Megan, she is a nurse down in Cincinnati, and Rebecca, who is a senior at Anderson University. I grew up in a Christian household. My parents raised me to have a strong Christian faith from a very young age, and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm super excited to be here at my church back home. I worked in the kids area with my mom for multiple years, and I'm super excited to continue doing that here for you guys. And I'm super excited to get to know everyone. Thank you.
Have you say right here. Yes, give her a round of applause. So Owen and Gabe, if you guys can come back up, I want to pray over the three of them. But again, for the little kids, Andrea is going to be here on Sundays, and also, or is Owen hiding? That's going to be so awkward. Only in one church can we give Owen a round of applause when he comes out of the bathroom. But, hey! But if you have kids, Andrea's going to be doing that. Then she's also going to be taking over the first Wednesday of every month is our kids' night, which we had this last Wednesday, and hoping to expand. So kids, for one church, I know it's different at different schools. Scoot a little closer here. I put on deodorant last week, so we're good. So we do kids so Andrea's going to oversee them from newborns through 5th grade is our elementary. So that's Andrea. Owen is 6th, 7th, 8th. Gabe is 9th through 12th. So, but I just want to take a moment just as a church just to pray over the three of them as we go into the school year and just the ministry that they're going to be providing for us. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for these three that are willing to step up their time, their gifts, their talents, to care, to show kids love, to be there for them during difficult times, difficult seasons of life. And I thank you so much, again, for their willingness to do this. And I ask for just protection for them. I ask that you continue to be with them in the struggles and in time management to be able to give to the church and also the college and jobs and different things that they're doing. And God, I just ask that you continue to bless them and bless their ministry here at One Church, that kids and youth will see and be loved through them, through their interactions, through ministry, through time. And God, I thank you so much for their willingness, again, to step up and say yes. Because of situations that have happened in their life, they're willing to give back, to invest in tomorrow. We love and we thank you. It's in your name. Amen. So thank you very much. You guys can have a seat. Andrea, will you set that in there? So as I was kind of thinking through this and I was kind of going through the sermon of today, and the sermon that I really hit home for me was the culture of as we talk about kids, is the story of David and Goliath. And maybe you've heard this story before, and maybe you haven't. Maybe you are really aware of the story or really not. So I'm just going to kind of give you a synopsis a little bit. So David was a very young man. He was, again, about the age like 10 to 12, they say. And it really kind of made me, like as I was talking about the story of who I was and growing up, and I went, how humbling is it that for me, I was 10, 12, and I was breaking church windows, and David was literally killing giants at that age, right? But the faith that David had at that age, the faith that David, that he went through. So the story of David is, here is Goliath and this big man, and David, everybody else is afraid to face Goliath. And David says, I'll do it. And they try to put David in all of the armor, and they try to give David all of this stuff, and David's like, I can't do that. It doesn't fit me. It doesn't work. This armor wasn't fit for me. But he trusted in God. And when he faced Goliath, and if you want to follow along, I'm going to share the part in 1 Samuel 17, 48 through 50. And so David faces Goliath. And when the Philistine arose, that's Goliath, and came and drew near to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. David's faith in God, he ran quickly to face what God has said and to follow God's will. And David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead. I apologize for a guy with a speech impediment with S's. That's a hard sentence to read. Try it again. And David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone and slung it, and struck the Philistine in his forehead. And the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling, with a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. There was no sword in the hand of David. So the important part here, that the story of David and Goliath, it's the story we tell the little kids. It's the story we share with little kids about the power that God has when you're willing to face that you can willingly face your giants. When God puts things in your way that you say, I can't handle, I can't take on, I can't seem to get over that. The promise of David and Goliath is a wonderful story of the promise that God has given us, the promise that He showed to us. And the funny thing is, He used a kid. He used a 12-year-old kid to do that. When we as adults are afraid and we're so caught up in this world, when we're so caught up in this point that we're just like, I can't face this. I can't face this giant. I can't face this situation. It takes that, right? We have these moments that we learn. We learn from our kids, right? If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, they'll tell you, you learn from your kids. You learn how they do certain stuff, and you say, man, I wish I had that confidence. I wish I had that ability to say God is going to be in control. God is going to watch over us. So we as a church, we're going to invest in these kids, not because they're the kids of tomorrow. We're going to invest in these youth because not that they're like it looks good. It's not about, hey, we're checking the mark that we have so many kids and we have so many youth. We're going to invest in them because they matter. Because they are the church now. And we're going to be so stupid crazy in our way as a church to make sure that they have a spot and that they feel comfortable. We're going to invest in Andrea and in Gabe and Owen. We're going to invest in them in their ministry because we want them to be able to invest in those kids. There's nothing better, right? Yesterday I had one of those emotional days as a dad, and if you saw my random Facebook posts, I'm a horrible person to follow on Facebook because I post randomly once a year. It's really exciting, but yesterday was one of those days that I needed other people to invest in my kids. My daughter had struggled. She loves volleyball, and I love watching her play volleyball, but she struggled to serve, and it's been going on all year long, and she struggled, and I tried to sit there, and I tried to tell her, hey, this is the way that you serve, and as a now 13-year-old, that happened, and I blinked, and that happened this week, so I'm still getting used to saying she's 13, but as a 13-year-old, I watched, and she just kind of had that eye roll, right? Like, Dad, you have no idea what you're talking about. I want to be like, oh, if you would have known back in my beach volleyball. No, I really was bad back then too. But your mom was good at volleyball, so listen to her. And it's like, no. Like, there's nobody. And so we had all these other people, and finally, friends just invested. People have talked to her, and all of a sudden yesterday, to watch her serve and to get 6 of 7 serves over the net and overhand, and they were perfect. And like Jamie and I are like looking at each other like, what just this is awesome. Right? We counted on people to do that. We counted on people to invest in our kids. We had a struggle in football yesterday of a bad situation happened with a fumble that cost us. And Jackson struggled through that. As a dad, you're like, no, but people surrounded him and spoke into him. Jamie and I love our kids personally more than anything in the world, but it can't just be us. It has to be others that are pouring into our kids, that are investing in our kids. And that takes all of us as a church to be stupid crazy in the way that we invest in the kids. And maybe your kids have grown up now. Maybe your kids are college or older or are out of the home, or maybe you have grandkids or whatever it is, and you know the importance of what it was like when people invested in your kids before. So now I challenge you to step up. I went in for our Lunch Buddies program, and I got all the permissions for the kids that have already been part of Lunch Buddies and giving of that time. And I was so excited for it. And I called a couple teachers and like, please tell me you have more people. Because we have kids that need a mentor. And I said, I'll tell you what, you put their name down and I will find people to give of their lunch, to hang out with a kiddo. We will find people because we as a church, they don't have to be here at this church. We will find people in the community that will do that because we as a church have promised that we're going to do that if there is a need. We're going to do all sorts of fun stuff. We're going to be that church that does random stuff. We have box of Doritos that we discovered expire in 10 days, so it's Dorito Sunday. Take Doritos home. We're going to do that. And it seems silly, but we're going to do that. Take the Doritos. Just be silly and know that we're going to be a church that honors God first and foremost. W, you got to wait till the end to get your Doritos. I will call you out in front of everybody. It's 10 days, buddy. They're not expiring in 10 minutes. It's 10 days. But we're going to be a church that does that. We're going to be a church that dives in on that. And you know what? That's not for everybody. But as I've said from day one, that's who we're going to be. Because there are many, many churches in Midland County and around the world that wish they had the problem of too many kids and too many youth running around making noise. And the ex-teacher in me and the pastor in me loves that. Loves the chaos. Loves that I can look over and watch pumpkin tic-tac-toe and to see that. We're going to be that church that trusts the kids and say, you know what? You are the church of today. You have a place here today. And we're going to set that culture so when they grow up and this is their church, they invest in that next generation and give them a church. So if nothing else today, I want you to understand the story of David and Goliath is beautiful because David faced the giant and he did something that nobody else. And the rest of those older men must have just, the struggle that they must have had by going, no, I can't face my giants. And they see this young 10, 12-year-old face the giant and say, you know what, I can do it now. I can face that. So if nothing else today, I want you to take home point be this. In order to be a church for the youth, we need to let the youth be the church. And we're going to let them be that. And if that offends you, then politely I'd love to sit down and have coffee and help you find another place to worship on Sundays. We will be that church. That is going to be in our DNA and that's going to be our culture. Pray with me, won't you? Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for today. I thank you for a chance to celebrate youth. I thank you for a chance to celebrate kids. I thank you for just the wonderful heart of these kids and the things that we can learn from them. Their passion to come up here and to hear the song that's sung almost every kid's night and to have them up here dancing and singing and loving just being here. I love a church that can sit here and we can have a bunch of girls that want to worship and are dedicated to coming to church early so that they can lead worship. God, we're going to be that church because that's what you remind us time and time again. The stories, the parables that you shared about letting it be the church, letting us be, or having the kids come to you, and we're going to be that church. And God, I ask that you protect us and keep that on the front of our mind. And when we stray from that and when we become annoyed or just overly tired with dealing with the wrestlingness of young kids, that you give us that reminder. It's okay. And we can find a way to love them through that. God, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for just continuing to show that. It's in your strong and powerful name. Amen.